Hey everybody, Keegan here, and today we're going to be talking about mass shootings and false flags. Okay, so this is kind of a touchy subject, but I'm just going to get right into it. So I've talked before about William Cooper's Behold a Pale Horse and how he had a chapter called Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars. One of the things that he talked about in Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars was staging mass shootings. So apparently the CIA during the 1980s went over and worked with the Italian government during what was called Operation Gladio B. And they actually helped them, the CIA helped the Italian government actually carry out shootings in Italy. Now, the ones that they actually took credit for, nobody died. But one of the things they did was they would give like a mental patient a gun and have him fire it at a park. And then they would use the media and say, oh, crazy people are shooting up a park. We got to worry about the kids. And before they knew it, all the people over there wanted to give up their gun rights. And years later, it was like 10 years later when they found out what was actually going on, they didn't get their gun rights back. So they found out the truth, but they didn't get their gun rights back. So the CIA has no problem overseas with staging terror attacks. Then you get into 9/11, how people think that 9/11 was a false flag, where they actually like wore the colors of their enemies and attacked themselves so they didn't look like the bad guys so they could get some sort of political motive done. This is what's going on with most of these shootings. I don't want to say most, I don't want to say all of them, but definitely some of them. There's some of these shootings that have some really, really weird like occurrences in them. For instance, like with Sandy Hook, the kid's fingerprints like weren't even on the gun, but the chief of police's fingerprints were on the gun. No trauma helicopters were called in. There's this guy Robbie Parker who was one of the parents of the Sandy Hook victims, and he's like laughing right before he does an interview, and he's like, "Oh, am I on?" Right after laughing and stuff. So like, there's some weird stuff with Sandy Hook. There's a thing with Anderson Cooper, where he, from CNN, and he's interviewing one of the parents of Sandy Hook, and his nose disappears. And like, you're like, why would his nose disappear? Because it was green screen. They were actually in a studio somewhere. So why would the parents be pretending to be at the funeral and be willing to be involved with this green screen scenario? So that there's some weird stuff. Uh, with James Holmes, the Batman shooter, the guy that went to the movie theater and shot up all the people during the Batman movie. There's so much weird stuff with that. That guy was a career student. He was a valedictorian. He had no criminal record. He spent like $30,000 on guns in a 2 month period, and he wore like a bulletproof cup. But yet he shot up all these people. As soon as the cops showed up, he willingly gave himself up, even though he's armed to the teeth, go to town with anybody. The cops showed up, he just gives himself up willingly. His hair's all dyed orange and shit. Fucking, he's all in fucking court drooling and stuff, yet this kid's supposed to be a genius. Him, his dad, and his grandpa all had connections to DARPA. DARPA makes like the CIA's like little gadgets and shit. And supposedly they were working on a contract with the Mars Candy Bar company, and they were working on a chocolate that soldiers could eat at a time during duress, where like your heart rate is like going all crazy. You could eat this chocolate and your heart rate would slow down. And people are saying that James Holmes and his dad and his grandpa were connected to this DARPA program. I mean, there's so much weird shit with the Batman shooting. Uh, the San Bernardino shooting. So when that went down, people said it was like 4 to 6 like big like white militia looking dudes. Then it became this Muslim couple, like the Vegas shooting. Come on, the guy's name's Stephen Paddock. Paddock means an enclosure for sheep. All these people were shot up in like a pinned in area that was right in front of a giant freaking pyramid. The Vegas shooting is shady as fuck. All the witnesses that said they saw multiple shooters all ended up dying from like accidents and stuff. There's stuff with like Stephen Paddock's autopsy was released, and it said that he died at noon the next day. But I thought he killed himself, so like he died from suicide the next day. What the fuck? The Pulse nightclub shooting, you guys remember that? When that fucking the gay nightclub got all shot up, and there's footage coming out, and people were like holding their bleeding friends and like carrying them like back into the fucking nightclub and shit. This new Florida shooting. Like immediately when the Florida shooting happened, I said, "Oh, they're gonna show a picture of this kid holding a gun," and that's what the first thing they did. They're like, "Here's a picture of him holding a firearm," right? One of the things that's like a tall tale sign that this got government involvement is if a shooting happens and they already got pictures fucking lying around of the fucking suspect holding a gun. Uh, Lee Harvey, who shot President Kennedy, he had the rifle with the tickets to Cuba. Uh, the Oslo shooter, remember that guy? They immediately had pictures of him holding the gun. Jared Loeffner, who shot Gabrielle Giffords or whatever, they were showing pictures of him on the news holding a gun in the Speedos. Osama bin Laden, when 9/11 happened, they were showing that picture of him shooting the fucking machine gun. Dude, like, of course you're going to think that guy did it if the news immediately shows you a picture of him holding a gun. Another thing was weird about the Florida shooter is one of the first images I saw, he was wearing what looked like a brand new t-shirt with all these communist leaders on it. And then all of a sudden now he's a white supremacist Donald Trump supporter. And I saw a picture of him wearing the Make America Great Again hat, shooting fucking guns in his backyard. So it just makes you want to fucking hate this specific dude. They're already calling for new gun laws and stuff. They're trying to take the guns. That's what the fuck they're doing. Silent weapons for quiet wars. They're trying to get us to willingly turn in our guns and shit. Now, some of these shootings might be organic, right? They might be an actual like lone nut that wants to throw down, and he goes and shoots up his post office or whatever, right? And you have copycat shootings, and I get that, but when these shootings happen and immediately the media is all like, we gotta talk about gun laws and shit, when it's not even the time, that's not the time to be doing that. You wait until we've had a chance to calm down as a country before we start trying to get rid of the Second Amendment when we're angry. Like, what? It just seems obvious that they're trying to take the guns. But anyhow, I'm Keegan, and don't roll your eyes at me.